You're listening to the When Life Hands You Lennon's podcast.
But in an entry-level film production, it's one strike and you're out. You're fired. I'm not calling you back.
If your goal today is to make a basket, we're going to make that basket.
The minute you create something, as soon as it's made tangible, you have a copyright in it.
How do I get our guys to sound that big, that full when they do the harmonies?
And I'm your host, Lennon Seahawk. Let's get to the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of When Life Hands You Lennon's. I have a very, very incredible conversation with Mr. Adam Small. Now, he is a music executive, an A&R, and executive producer who signed and developed Saweetie. Adam's journey and list of career accomplishments is a long and impressive one, and I'll let him tell much more about that. But he has over 3 billion streams with a B, 3 billion streams, and he's 31 years old. He's also the CEO of ADS Music Partners and has also founded a company called Artistry Group with Max Goose. Now, he's also facilitated many, many artists and collaborations with Saweetie, Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallions, Mulatto, and he has done a lot of producing for Saweetie. In fact, a number of Saweetie's tracks have been produced by him, and he will get into that and talk about which ones he's produced and which ones he hasn't. Adam talks about his experience growing up. He talks about how he got into music. He talks about his college career and going between LA and Michigan and college. And then he talks about what he's doing currently. And he talks about the advice that he's received from Max Goose, who is one of his mentors and business partners, as well as a number of other industry professionals that have helped him along the way. So I don't want to give too much information. I will let Adam tell his story. He does it much better than I ever could. But I want to remind you to please sign up to my mailing list. It helps me notify you when new episodes like this are live. I'd also appreciate it if you check out my website, lennonseahawk.com. You can follow me on Instagram, just Lennon Seahawk. My link to my Instagram is also on my website. And please leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps the show get boosted in the algorithms and be discovered by new listeners. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment, like, share. What do the YouTubers say? Smash that like button. I think that's what they say. Smash the like button. Share it out. And lastly, if you or somebody you know would be a good guest for the show, there is a link in the show notes for a guest request form. Fill that out, and I will be in touch. So without talking too much more, please enjoy this conversation with the incredible Adam Small. First of all, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more and learn a little bit about your career. I got to read a little bit of your bio, and it's pretty extensive. So why don't we start kind of just by you telling a little bit about yourself so we can get kind of a groundwork, and then we can go from there.
Cool. I mean, I appreciate you having me first and foremost.
Sure. Of course.
And yeah, so look, I'm a 31-year-old music executive, currently in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. Been doing this about almost 10 years. Everything from management to A&R to executive producing, songwriting, you name it.
Cool. So tell us about how you got started in music. Did you get started by doing management? Did you get started by producing? Where did it all kind of kick off?
So I went to school for finance, and in order to graduate, you need to have an internship.
Okay.
So I actually Googled music internship programs in California. I was going to school at Butler University in Indianapolis, and I just really wasn't trying to work at a bank all summer. And I found this program actually called Dream Careers.
Okay.
And it was a program where you stay at UCLA, you're in dorms, but you have some sort of entertainment internship. And throughout the process, I, interviewed at a bunch of different places, didn't really like the scope of the work. And then my, coordinator who's helping me find the job. Said, I know someone that works with Snoop Dogg. Are you interested? And I was like, absolutely. I'm a fan of rap, hip hop, and Snoop's like one of my favorites. And it just seemed like a great opportunity. The catch was I had to drive myself, to and from. It wasn't part of the program, but I could still, stay at the dorm, have the meal plan and the experience, but I had to get myself to and from this internship. So I drove across the country, started working there. He was doing his whole reincarnated Snoop Lion, reggae transitional period,
Sure.
which for me was interesting because I'm looking at this guy's a rap legend, and of course I'm here during this crazy turn of, what is this going to be? Is this going to be cool? And what am I going to do? So I started off in a marketing role. Snoop was really in Europe and Jamaica at the time, fostering his whole project.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he got back, I ended up helping him basically coordinate his GGN show, which is, on where he brings on different celebrity guests. They talk about current events, smoke together and whatnot. And I ended up rolling weed for his show. And so yes, I start off as one of Snoop Dogg's weed rollers at the office.
Was this a paid position?
No, completely unpaid.
Completely
Anyone who wants to get into music, your parents might not understand it.
Yeah.
And you might not understand it, but no one's really going to teach you to learn the game. So I did that. I also did some marketing stuff. But it was in LA, and this was 2012. So I was actually fortunate at the time to get to experience the come up of Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace.
Yes.
Schoolboy Q, Kendrick, YG, Dom Kennedy putting out the Yellow album, classic, and it all kind of happened at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool to see the West Coast resurgence, and I think part of that was the reason I'm in music today. I have to be a part of a really special moment. And then going back to Indiana to finish my last year of school, I was like, this is fucking awful. And I actually had 2 years left because I was behind. I had some, let's say I wasn't the best attendance person in college, as I'm sure anyone can relate to. So I switched my major to communications my senior year and did double course loads. I could get back out to California without any plan or money to do it. So I graduated, and my dad gave me a week to figure it out, but he eventually just threw me out of his house after a week, and I just went to LA. On the way, I was sitting at friends' houses, and then I found another internship at Universal Music Group Distribution, which is basically the CD closet, but it was cool. I got to see how all the labels were structured, and again, this is an unpaid position, and I just kind of figured it out. I really worked for free for the first 4 to 5 years of my career. And, I made a way for myself doing other things, mostly in the cannabis space. And, I think those tough times made it me really decide, is this something I really want to do? Right. And, 2 years in, I had to go back to Detroit, and because I couldn't afford to stay in LA. And then, I got it, but music was always kind of my passion. So I started throwing raves and being in the electronic scene in Detroit, throwing shows every weekend, just kind of doing what I could to stay involved. And then I just realized, this isn't really going to happen for me here at the level I want. So I literally, within 2 weeks, keep in mind, I'm studying to take the LSAT at the time. Those are the only way I can appease my family to stay off my back while I secretly am trying to go back out, right? So I took the LSAT, I took the LSAT course. 2 weeks before the test, I went to LA, took meetings. I was this is where I really want to be. Came back to the LSAT and moved to LA 4 days later, and didn't tell anyone.
Wow.
I just made the move. I didn't ask for help. I knew it was something I had to do on my own. The reason I didn't work the first time was because I needed help. So I had to figure it out myself, and came back out, started interning for Max Goose, who I had previously interned with before my first stint. And in LA, and that was 2016, and today I'm his partner and president of the label, and not to skip like the next 5 years, but that you get in somewhere, you build, you catch some hits, and life kind of changes.
Yeah. Cool. So, of all the last 10 years of your career, what has kind of been a point in your career where you're like, this was very pivotal for me? Like a memory or a piece of advice that you would give somebody kind of in your shoes or wanting to get to where you're at. What is a piece of advice that really stood out?
Is that the fire alarm? Did you hear that? Okay, got you. What is a pivotal point? Everything is a pivotal point. Like I know it sounds so cliche, but like every time you fuck up, sorry, can I curse on here? Okay, every time you fuck up, every time you learn a lesson, right? And that will change the way you do things. Obviously, everyone wants to point to the highlights, right? This or that, but like I remember tough lessons in my career where like it was a growing moment. And I think it was when I understood that losses are a growing moment is when the game kind of changed for me. I like to win. I don't like to lose. And the only way you lose is by not doing the right thing after you take what looks like a loss, right? So you have to turn it into a lesson. You guys want to hear the highlights, so let's say a turning point for me was when, obviously, when we got Saweetie her deal.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, talk about that process in getting Saweetie her deal and why that was so pivotal.
I mean, so the reality is, to be on a level in the music industry where you are providing for tons of people, and I'm in the superstar business. I don't like doing anything that's not the greatest. Like, I'm obsessed with greatness, right? I remember I used to like hate on LeBron James, and I was like, because I was a Pistons fan and this guy was a Cleveland Cavalier, and he ripped our hearts out, right? But then when I got over that, I was like, yo, this guy is really the GOAT. Like, I'm trying to watch him be great all the time. Like, I don't particularly love Drake, but I love seeing him be the best.
Yeah.
So when you instill that in yourself, the idea of being the best comes with certain things attached, which means like a major label backing, global marketing presence, and seeing how I could take something from the mud, from a girl rapping on Instagram, to now what is a McDonald's deal, is like what that's all about, right? That's over the course of 4 years, right? Like McDonald's pitch was like over 2 years ago. Like, it takes time, right? So I say her getting her deal was very good to me or a pivotal point for me, because it was the first time I actually had success getting an artist from the mud to a major position where we actually got it's not just like someone did me a favor and gave me a deal, right? We had a video that Icy Girl was not on DSPs, and the video had like 30 million plays pre-deal. I was able to go to New York with her and get her on Genius to do the interview thing before it was like super popular, on a video that had 1 million plays. And I was able to get her on Gary Vaynerchuk's like podcast on the same trip, just by like DMing him from her account, saying like, yo, he was working with like Nipsey Hussle at the time, having certain, rappers on his podcast. And I was like, let's get a female rapper on there. So I was able to build a trip to New York around, we had label meetings, but really it was marketing meetings mostly. So it was like meeting with E1, Genius, VaynerMedia, X, Y, and Z. Like, New York is still like the marketing capital of the world, right? Like, this is where a lot of the CEOs are, the business decisions. So, with me, it was never music focused. Like, the music isn't first, and it's the catalyst, but you have to have the 360 approach to, okay, how does we really make a record go, right? Because Icy Girl we recorded in a closet. It was the first song I made with Saweetie. She had already rapped it on Instagram. And that's how we were like, yo, we should record this, right? So it was her getting a deal. And then probably the next one was, my mentor and partner, Max, always told me a hit pays for everything. And I never really understood that until I got my first hit. And sure enough, Icy Girl was cool. Like, yeah, it's almost double platinum, but like that was more just like a moment. But My Type was a hit. It's a classic record. It'll always be in the club. And that's like 4 times platinum. And once I saw that shit go number 1, I was like, yo, you're like working so hard, but it's so different. Like opportunities, like it's just different. Like the way word spreads, people pay attention. And then, as it grew with, whether it was like, I did Hot Girl Summer around the same time for Megan, Nicki, and Ty. Another hit, another number 1. And like it's happening so fast, right? That, Max always told me your number 1s will come in bunches. And I'm like, well, yeah, you worked with Beyonce. So like, I feel you, right?
Yeah.
And then, it did. And then sure enough, pandemic happens like 6 months after that. This is like 2019. So you got to think, when we signed Saweetie in 2017, it took some time to get to a hit record.
Sure.
Right? It was almost a year and a half. No, what am I saying? 2 years until we got My Type. Right? From her like doing her deal. No, I'm sorry. We signed her in like May of 2017. And My Type really started to hit in May of 2019. But she's only signed for like a year before that, right? To Warner. Through our venture. And yeah, man, like it takes time. It's the patience and just seeing how it levels up every time to the point where like in quarantine we had like 4 number 1s. And then around that you're working with, Megan, you're working with Mulatto, you're working with literally everyone's coming to you. Atlantic's, hitting you up to work with their artists. Like they're just it's very interesting as an executive to see how no one believes you till you do it. And then once you do it, everybody wants to believe you.
That's a good point. So do you think that Saweetie would have had the success she's had given if it weren't the pandemic? Like, was she on that trajectory to succeed the way she has, or would it have taken a different route?
So, of course, everything would have been different if we were allowed to be outside. I mean, you got to understand, we were doing 2-3 club appearances a week.
Wow.
And that's part of the reason My Type was so successful is we were able to work it in the club. When it comes to an artist like Saweetie, she works so hard, right? And so the pandemic to me, as someone who always had to get out of the mud and do it myself, was kind of like everyone else is freaking out. I was like, yeah, this is weird, but my life hasn't really changed. I'm just, I used to be a guy who would like go have lunch with A&Rs every day and then go to offices and pop up and see what they're doing. And it was just how I would stay busy and also like figure out what the fuck's going on. So I'm only focused on what I'm doing, but I have to know what everyone else is doing. If that makes sense. Like I need to know, because that's how you make plays, right? Yeah. You want to pay attention to who signed to who, what kind of vibe they're working on. Like I have producers and writers signed to me also. So you want to get them involved with other projects as well. And I think for Saweetie, the only thing that changed was how we communicated the record. I think there was probably a 2-month window where labels didn't really know what to do. And they were kind of like, okay, like how do we really market this when we're used to just using the live show and radio and all that stuff to like promote records outside of the digital, right? I think what made Saweetie a unique case is that she knows her fans really well. She's able to connect with them and get high engagement on socials, right? She knows what they want. And like, for example, we've had number 1 records on TikTok and Triller like consistently, right? And it's not any backdoor, like we're paying influencers where she's the influencer, right?
Yeah.
And yes, like those things will help, but it has to come from her, like that marketing side of it, like the tap in dances and things like that. Like it has to, the cosign has to come from her for her fans to think it's cool.
Yeah.
for her dancing in school. And I think that changed. But listen, you had two choices during quarantine. Like, are you going to sit there and do nothing? And then obviously, I think we all took a step back and we're like, what do we do? And that's natural. But, you know, when I meet with artists now, or I pick up an artist from management and they're like, well, yeah, I got signed during quarantine. I'm like, who's using that as an excuse?
Yeah.
Like, you're choosing what you use it as an excuse. And the reason I say that is because I had more success in my career during quarantine.
Sure.
And part of the reason Saweetie actually had so much success, though, was because we really built her as a marketing platform and let the records catch up. See, a lot of artists, like, you'll see someone like Bia right now, who's having a lot of success with a whole lot of money record. Shout out to Oliver and Bruno. Those are two of my guys who manage her and you know, discovered her, and Zeke at Epic, who signed her. And I think, you know, she's an artist where you have a hit song right now, and the next level to that is, how do we get the marketing landscape to reach the same level where you're ubiquitous in the space, so every record you put up now goes crazy, right? And I think she's the next one that's going to transition into that space. Okay. I think naturally. Like, you look at it happen with Saweetie, Megan, Cardi, Nicki, of course, but like, you got to think, like, even when Saweetie was working an old record, she was doing a Fashion Week runway show. She has a McDonald's meal. Like, these are certain, like, things. I hate to keep bringing that up, but it's like, those are straight marketing plays that when you're always in the ethos, it's a lot easier to get a record off.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how all these artists are doing that, and you can see how some are very tactile with their techniques, and like Saweetie has done, she's built up her following on Instagram, and now she has the McDonald's meal, and she's been very tactile in all of her kind of marketing techniques. And like Cardi B has been, she's just very weird and odd and has that very bubbly personality, and people just cling on to that. And now she's been memed about, which is all marketing. It's all marketing. So I want to actually talk about the McDonald's meal, because I feel like that's such a weird shift into, you know, fast food versus a high-end artist. So talk about how that came about and whose idea it was and all that stuff. I'm very curious to see how that works.
I mean, look, everybody eats McDonald's.
Fair.
It's a staple. McDonald's, Apple, like, I don't care who you are. You know, we may not eat it now, but like, those arches mean something.
Yes.
It's a part of like Americana, but also global, like, shit, right?
Yeah.
That was, you know, part of just a, you know, a regular meeting in Chicago at Burrell. Taking it around, you presented to McDonald's, Toyota, X, Y, and Z. You know, like, when you're building an artist, you create this brand and this imagery. What I think that makes McDonald's meal so attractive, at least right now, is that, one, it's everywhere. Two, it's rare air. It's J Balvin, BTS, like the biggest Latin artist, the biggest K-pop artist, really the biggest artist in the world is BTS. Groups in the world is BTS. Then you have Travis Scott, who's the culture. And so to have her be the first female, but also like just be in that space, is just, it's a flex.
Yeah. Sure.
Like, you can't hate on McDonald's. We were all kids. We all, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can talk, like I said, people can talk shit about McDonald's. It all held us down at one point.
Yes.
You know, and I think, and you know, I wasn't there for the actual ideation of the actual meal. But I promise you, that was Saweetie. You know, and we've done that before. Like, there was a play I put together that was small, but I mean, in LA, I don't know if you're familiar with a spot called Fat Sal's.
Oh, yes. I love Fat Sal's.
I had them do a shake activation. It was right when we dropped her Icy EP, and we made a shake called the Fat Icy. And it was just like a bomb ass shake that she put together, and she ideated. Sweet. I will never take that away from her. She is probably the most, especially when it comes to food, the most creative person I've ever seen. I think we all know that from her socials.
Yeah.
But also, she really she rocks with what she likes. And she's someone who will eat McDonald's.
Wow.
Period.
So, what is your kind of relationship with Saweetie? Are you her manager? Do you just produce her? Like, what's kind of your relationship with her?
A&R producer.
Okay.
You know, started off in a management role, supporting my partner. That ended, and then really just the whole time, like my role is to curate the records. So everything you've pretty much heard, with the exception of Fast,
Okay.
was mine. So Best Friend, Tap In, My Tell You, Back to the Streets, like that was the creative process.
Wow. Congrats. Yeah, I've my partner loves Saweetie and listens to her music all the time. So he's definitely a big fan. So I want to talk about the A&R process, because it's very different than how it was 15, 20 years ago. Now we have social media, and a lot of artists get discovered on social media, and that's they use their social media to leverage deals with brands like McDonald's or labels or whatever. So talk about the A&R process today. What is it? Are you actively signing artists? What do you look for in an artist these days before you sign them?
I mean, look, it's a process for me. I'm
Sure.
at the point now where I used to just sign what I liked, but now it's so much more intense than that. My scrutiny is much higher. I want to sign the next Travis Scott level artist,
Of course.
or the next Metro Boomin as a producer, or the next Star as a songwriter. Like, we're talking about the best of the best, because you only need one, right? And you have to understand that it's not really about what you like; it's about what you can sell. A&R is a term that I wear as a badge of like honor, because it's such like a most people don't even know what A&R means. It stands for artist and repertoire. Most people think it's like artist relations, like, or just some other thing. And it's more than just scouting talent. It's having a recording process. What I do is more of like producing, executive producing. If this is the 80s, I would be bringing in these producers and songwriters the same way that you would bring in instrumentalists and songwriters to like make the vision. But there are times where you just set a session and you let the people create. If it's one of my sessions where I'm in there for 12 hours, 24 hours, whatever it might take, then I'm producing, right? So, it comes from signing talent to putting them in the right situations to cultivate their talent. Really, we maximize on their vision, and we make it make sense for the label, for the manager, for the artist, right? You want the artist to win. You want the artist to be artists at the end of the day. It's their careers. But I think a lot of people think you just kind of find talent, you sign, and it blows up. A&R is really to hold down the entire recording process, which is the whole reason we're in this business, which is to make music. It's a recording business. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not a research guy. I go with my gut. I go with what I like.
Yeah.
Some A&R is better with research, but I know how to make records. So that's what I do.
Sure. And it's definitely worked out for you. Clearly, you've had a lot of success, and there's no knocking that. So you've worked a lot of like facilitating a lot of artists and collaborations. How do you go about that process in, say, connecting Saweetie with Travis Scott or Nicki Minaj or Drake or whoever? What does that process kind of look like?
I mean, it's as simple as cutting a record and being like, who would sound sweet on this? And using your connections to see if they want to get on the record. And once they do, you get in touch with their management and you sort out the scheduling. If I'm having, a big artist get on one of my records, I'm having the label pay for it, right? We're treating them to, do the record. Everyone likes it. You have the lawyers sort out the business on it, get the label to clear it, and you're rocking. It's just about your network at that point.
Cool. So what is the kind of the legal stuff of, do you pay them up front? Like, hey, I'll give you $500,000 to be on this verse or in this track. Do you cut them publishing and master royalties? Like, what is
You
that?
can. It depends on what your relationship is. A lot of the bigger artists do swaps. We're like, hey, I got you, you got me. Like, we'll do 1-on-1. And again, that's something you have to work out legally. It has to be in writing. The label has to agree to it.
Mhm.
right? Because listen, every artist is $1 million, multi-million dollar marketing machine for a label.
Mhm.
It's a product. You can't just let anything touch your product, right?
Right.
But of course, if the artist that you're having feature writes a verse with their team or by themselves, yes, they get their appropriate amount of publishing. If it's an artist that's bigger than your artist, they might get more publishing than like the other artist because they're adding that much more to the song. It's all about how you want to play it, right?
Mm.
And then of course you get neighboring rights as an artist who performs, which is like when you're on radio, there's certain royalties that go to you for having your vocals on the song, and you also usually get an artist royalty as well from the artist share because you're helping sell the record.
Mm.
So everyone is aware of the revenue streams.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why artists have teams and representatives to help both protect their interests, but also use their interests to get deals done.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, once you get up into the higher levels and the bigger artists, I guess I didn't realize it was like, you got me, I got you. That's an interesting, I mean, marketing.
No one can afford to pay Drake for a verse.
That's fair.
Like understand this. If you're a newer artist, and let's say you want Lil Baby, right? Lil Baby right now is going to charge you $200,000 for the verse, and then probably another 100 for him to be in the video for you to use his face to market it. So if you're looking at $300,000 out of your recording budget, then and you only had a $600K to work with, that's half your recording budget for one record. So to be honest, unless you're a bigger artist that has a bigger budget, it's really a different conversation.
Mm.
So artists like Drake don't have budgets. Like they do, but they don't. Like anything they need, they're going to get.
Right.
But let's be real. If Lil Baby's is charging for 300, Drake's is really worth half. It's really priceless. He'll only do what he wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, and that's why swaps are important. A lot of times younger artists will do swaps because let's say like artist A is a little bit, hotter or at the same level as artist B, but then artist B blows up. Well, since they did a swap, artist B can get the swap from the artist now and use that as a marketing play.
Interesting. So talk about the kind of growing up with and how a smaller artist can continue to climb the ropes. Like, what are a couple things that you would give to, what pieces of advice that you would give to an artist that wants to get to a Saweetie level or a Drake level, or just make a living on their music at a basis?
I mean, make a conscientious effort with your messaging, how consistent you are, and also who are you making music for? You got to ask yourself that question. Making music and selling it is no different than making t-shirts and selling it. You need to know who your demographic is, who's going to buy it. I would say get active, engage with people. If you can get one new fan a day, you have no idea the ripple effect that has. Everyone looks at us like, I got to have 1 million followers. If you can make one person fall in love with you every day in your music every day, they're going to tell someone else about it.
Wow.
They're going to engage with you. They're going to support you. You have to be able to touch your fans. Like you have to ask them and be curious about their lives. Like if someone DMs you or leaves a comment like how much they love you, respond. Start a conversation with them. Don't just heart it. Really go deep into making people fuck with you, and that's how you get to the next level. You have to be likable.
That's really good advice. So with all the techniques that are available today, how does one further engage with their fans, especially when they have so many people commenting or DMing them on Instagram or Facebook or whatever? How do you really build genuine connections with these people to show genuine interest?
The same way you would with your friends. Like how many DM conversations can you have in a day? You can do whatever you want. I think you can. It's not rocket science. Like it's social media. Be social. These are all people. It's just about you want to make people feel special, and that's when people will support you. It's that simple.
Cool. So I want to transition into kind of your creative mindset a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, what kind of, let's start with like, what DAW do you use and how do you kind of get stuff going? Is there any gear that you use, plugins that you use, things like that?
I mean, I'm not really the one who's using the DAW.
Oh,
I
okay.
more or less will produce through people or give my input and how to play an instrument and things like that. I mean, I think Ableton Suite, you can do a lot of cool things with the programming, the sounds. I mean, Pro Tools is what we record on. But, as far as my production crew, we use everything from Logic to Machine to Ableton Push to you name it. Everyone that works in these well versed, they all engineer, they all vocal produce. You have to be well versed in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And live instrumentation really sets you apart. But it's all things you need in the arsenal to actually make that shit go.
Mm-hmm. So walk us through kind of your production process, like from the ideation to distribution.
So I'll sit with an artist. We'll discuss. The first way you come up with a concept for a record is there's a discussion. It's a conversation. It's because a record that's a hit is really a conversation, right? It has to evoke and resonate with people, right, on the messaging. I don't care if it's some turned up rap shit. I don't care if it's a sentimental ballad. It has to mean something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you discuss that with the artist. You come up with references in your head for like similar vibes that they want. Other records. You pull them up. You pay attention to things like the tempo, the song arrangement, the structure. What messaging in the song worked? What were your favorite points of the song that really draw your attention? And then you sit down with your production team and you really iron that out. Like, let's start with keys at this tempo, like maybe this BPM. We should arrange it like this. Add the guitar here, add a snap here, a kick here, and you kind of like go through this process of making like a gumbo. And it's like, we're going to add all these things and see what tastes good together. And then sometimes we'll leave, we'll go to dinner, we'll come back, and we'll just take shit out. And then sometimes you just rearrange it, start from scratch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you have to get the mix correct. You have to deliver the record in the way the artist sees fit. A lot of times I will spend all night in the studio with an artist vocal and curate 5 different songs to the same vocal, different vibes, right? And see what the artist likes so we can narrow it down. My production process is really more from the overall scope of like, how can I not only get this record sonically right, but also in a way where we can make the visuals line up and the marketing line up. And I'm a big radio guy. How will this fit into rotation with the DJs? What kind of formatting is it, right? And what are the parts of the song that win? What are the parts of the songs we can improve on? So it's basically like you start off with the main components and then you put it all together. And you actually overbuild the record and then you take away and you add more things to it. That's how I do it. You can always take away from a record. Adding things gets very like, you can fall in love with things that don't matter, and less is more, and you always want the artist's input. To be honest, like, the best records are produced by everybody, not just someone who shows up and plays keys and programs.
Sure.
Yes, you are a producer by today's standards.
Yeah.
But you're a music producer, not a record producer. The record is much bigger than just the track.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of people that can produce a record. And those are the Rick Rubins of the world, the Quincy Joneses, the Puffs, people that I aspire to be like. Because it's so much more than just laying a track down and laying a melody.
Yeah.
You gotta look at like producing a movie. You're producing a film. You're producing an experience every time you do this.
Yeah.
And that's where my process is.
Okay. That's so interesting to hear. So how do you keep track of everything that's going on? Because I would imagine working with an artist like Saweetie or Travis Scott is super, super, super involved with everything. And you've got so many different people contacting you and asking questions. Like, how do you keep everything on track and organized?
I mean, look, I was fortunate enough to start as an intern, work my way up to assistant, to coordinator, to a manager, to being the president of the whole thing. So I know how every piece of my business works intricately, which allows me to educate and train my team appropriately and efficiently, because I know how things are meant to be done at a very high level. With that, I rely on my team. Like, when you get to a point where you're not only business but also creative, and that's a rare space for me to be in, because not only do I have to interact in business situations and negotiate contracts and understand deal points and have that tact, but I also have to be up all hours of the night in the studio, turning off my A side of my brain and going to my B side of my brain, which is my creative side, right? And with that means that I have to be able to, like, when it comes to scheduling, I just give it to my coordinator Micah or my assistant Andrew. When it comes to personal tasks or dealing with day-to-day stuff for the clients that's more tedious, I hand it off to my team so I can focus on bigger plays. And it really just comes down to being organized. I have 20 clients, some management, some A&R. We're very organized. We have to be, because that's how I can allow myself to be in the studio for 10 plus hours and the world not fall apart. And that's also the stress and the pressure of that is what makes working for yourself independently such a blessing, right? When you work for a big corporation, if you don't do your job right, the corporation's still going to function. With me, the pressure of me not doing my job right or my team not doing their job right means that ultimately things will fall apart if we don't do our job. Right. And it's more of a lifestyle than anything, and you have to be organized. You have to believe it. You have to want it as bad as you want to breathe. It's like there's no other option but to get it done.
Yeah. So talk about your company a little bit. It's Artistry Records, correct?
That's one of them. So there's Artistry Records, and that's something that I co-own with Max Goose, who's like an industry legend, my mentor, my partner. Did everything from Beyonce to B2K to Adina Howard to YG, Ty Dolla $ign, ran Sony, ran Def Jam, and then started Artistry, and that's when I met him in 2013. And so that's one side. That's where we have our venture partners at Warner and Sony, Epic, and Def Jam, where we have artists that we cultivate there. It's really a production company. And then I have ADS Music Partners, which is my management company, my overall holding company. We have 12 producer-songwriters signed to us. We're on the charts all the time, weekly hits. And that's my team of creatives that I not only put in position to have success, they also allow me to operate as a producer as well. And have my own success. And that was really the key to my growth. Was I wanted to be an A&R. So I looked at what was the process for being an A&R. You got to have the studio on lock. You got to be able to trust your creatives. So I started cultivating the talent. I started cultivating the songwriters, the producers, and we're blessed. We have #1 records. We really do this shit. Like, it takes a village, right? And I think that's what allows me to not just be an A&R, but a producer, an executive producer, because I have the team, I have the process on lock. A lot of A&Rs don't know how to make records because they don't have that team on lock. They're just calling whoever's hot at the moment. Right. So yeah, ADS is, the other side of it, is where I handle my consulting gigs. It's me. Like, it's the identity of the company was created for me literally just so I had some sort of LLC in the business, and I created a culture. And ADS used to stand for my initials. Now it's a different sound. And it's really a team. It's the songwriters. It's Gino. It's Kane. It's Cronkite. It's Bukas. It's Pendrick. It's Nat. Like, there's Ice Pick. Like, the Morgue. Like, we have so many dope people. DJ Politic. Really just. Asher. We have so many people that view it as a team game, and a hit for one's a hit for everybody, and a rising tide raises all ships. And we believe in collaboration. Like the team's always working, they're grinding, like they're trying to be the next Dungeon family. You know, and my role in that is just to kind of plug it all together, make it all make sense, so they can be creatives. And we can take over.
Yeah, that's really cool how you have two different businesses. One of them to really kind of focus on yourself, and then the other one that's kind of more record label. Correct? Can you talk about Artistry Records a little bit? I'm very curious to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was just something that was born out of, you know, we founded that in 2017 when we signed. We were signing artists, you know, and that was like, you need a label name, you know, and we use it as a way to not just function with our venture partners at major labels, but to sign talent we believe in, to produce them, to then get them a label partner, to upstream. It's like any other business, you know. It's me and Max Goose. Max is CEO. I'm president. We have a great team beneath us. Monica Payne, one of my mentors. She's EVP. You know, it's really not a large team, maybe 10 of us, but we get shit done. We all have our roles, you know, and it's family at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's really great. It sounds like, you know, you've got everything rocking and rolling, and you've got the absolute keys to success. So I don't have any other questions for you. I don't want to be I want to be cognizant of your time, and I know it's very delicate for you. So thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your clearly very busy schedule to meet with me and chat with me and share so much about your career. Is there anything, like, how would listeners keep up with you and follow you and all the projects that you're working on?
They can follow me at Wasslife, WOSSLIFE, on all platforms. They can follow Artistry Records at, you know, Artistry Records on all platforms, and ADS Music Partners the same way. We're active. We're active on Instagram. We're active on Spotify. We're really out here curating hits. Be on the lookout for the Savages. Our new group at Artistry Records are coming soon.
Sweet.
And Nevaeh's debut EP, Artistry Def Jam, coming soon.
Sweet.
You know, just stay tapped in with what we're working on. Anyone who wants to reach out, please reach out. I'm looking for records, looking for good people to add to the team. And yeah, that's it.
Cool.
I appreciate you having me. And yeah, let me know if you need anything.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adam. Stay connected, and good luck. I wish you nothing but continued success.
Appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, bye.